So by the logic of the Loki Disney Plus series, there is an alternate universe version of me who does just writing sprints. There's an alternate version of me who's just a full-on makeup channel who does a haul every single week. And there's an alternate universe version of me that's a drama channel. I wonder if alternate universe me is covering Gabby Hanna right now. Hello and welcome to my review of the Loki Disney Plus series. So for every new Marvel Disney Plus series thus far, we've gotten a very different kind of flavor of show. With WandaVision, we had a mystery with some more experimental avant-garde elements. With Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we got a very cookie-cutter action show. And now with Loki, if I had to explain Loki in kind of a short blurb, I would say Loki is almost like a mid-century science fiction novel. And this comes down to several things, both the aesthetic as well as the music of the show, which are probably the most obvious examples, but then there's also the structure and the themes of the show. So I'm very impressed with how they've presented the plot of the story in this show, because on its face, the story is quite complicated. I think because of the success of the Marvel movies, the idea of multiverses, timelines, and time travel have become a lot more widely accepted in the mainstream media. But these are still very high-minded concepts, and because Loki does not have a super self-contained plot the way something like Back to the Future does, if they had not gone about it as well as they did, I think a lot of people would be really confused. I don't have many complaints when it comes to the structure of Loki, more so that I feel that characters should be given more time to interact for me to believe they have the relationships they have with each other at the end of the first season. So in the same way I said that Falcon and the Winter Soldier could be a lot shorter than it is, I think Loki would be best served if the show had been expanded by at least one more episode. I say though that this isn't a huge complaint because the acting in this show compensates for a lot of the interaction that's not really had. For example, Wumi Musaka, who plays Hunter B-15, really makes me believe that her character cares for C-20, even though I didn't even realize upon second rewatch that they basically never interact during the show. And this isn't the only time that problem comes across, but I'll talk about the other times it does a little later as we get into the character section. So Loki, even though he is the title character of the show, you have to remember is ostensibly a different character than the one we've seen thus far. At least from the first Avengers onward. This is, at least at the beginning of the show, purely Phase 1 Loki. And in my video where I revisit the Phase 1 Marvel movies, I talk about how I really don't like Loki as a character, particularly Phase 1 Loki. While he is still the most interesting Marvel villain next to maybe Thanos, he can come off very repetitive as a character, especially when he's trying to be grandiose and better than everyone. And that's the thing with this Loki, is that for most of the first two episodes, he is really just Phase 1 Loki. And that's the interesting thing about this show and this character, is that all of his character changes, particularly in the beginning, are shown through the acting as opposed to being shown in the writing. And so you're seeing that through Tom Hiddleston's acting, he is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in order to make the jumps and changes in the character that the writing requires. And whether you like that or not is gonna come down to a personal thing. Some people are real big fans of show and tell, and so this method of delivering cues of character change are going to be really good for them, while other people I know prefer a more direct statement of change through dialogue. For me personally, I'm kind of more in the former camp. I don't see Loki as being a character who is very introspective or is going to be talking with somebody else in order to work out his problems. But enough about Loki, now on to Loki, or rather Sylvie. So Sylvie has been around in the comics for a little bit. She's technically an amalgamation of two different characters. The literal female Loki, because Loki was reincarnated into a female at some point, and then Sophie Lushton, a girl from Earth who is given powers similar to Loki but never takes on the title of Loki. She becomes the Enchantress instead. It's hard to say if Sylvie is more like one character or the other. I think she's a fair mix of both. She looks the most like the female reincarnated Loki. I think particularly they took the most inspiration for her design from this one iteration of the character, which is a little more covered up and more in line with kind of the whole MCU design philosophy, as opposed to the more, shall we say, impractical options. For being what is supposed to be a female version of Loki, she is a very serious, hardened character. And in thinking about her character and what she's been through, I actually like that they let her be a lot more serious, as opposed to trying to fit her into the mold of being Loki as we kind of know him already. Both Sophia DiMartino and Tom Hiddleston do a great job in their roles, and the fact that they are so strong as individual actors makes up for the fact they really don't have a lot of chemistry. Like I said earlier, it could also be because they just don't have enough time for their characters to really develop the relationship they want you to believe they have at the end of the season. But I feel the kiss at the end of the first season was at the same time really unearned, but also they built it up in a way where it had to happen. I honestly don't know how you would restructure this, but I feel like them holding hands and causing a Nexus event should have been the climax of the show, as opposed to it being the weird kiss and then Sylvie shoving Loki away being the climax of the show. Also, their lack of chemistry really makes the relationship look like Loki has an unrequited crush on Sylvie. And the writing really enforces this. I think to some extent it was their intention, but it makes the kiss at the end even more confusing because Sylvie reciprocates the kiss, but then she shoves him away because she cares, not because she's like, oh, ew, no. So, other than Loki and Sylvie, there is also Mobius. As far as I'm aware, Mobius is a new character and not a transplant from the comics the way Ravonna and Sylvie are. In concept, I like Mobius as a character. I like the idea of somebody who knows all of Loki's life story and therefore is able to go toe-to-toe with him on an intellectual level. However, in practice, this makes some of their scenes together a little repetitive. It's one thing when one character is trying to talk circles around everyone. It's another thing when two characters are trying to talk circles around each other. And while I like some of their later interactions together, especially once they start working together, but particularly their initial interrogation scene together, and then the scene in episode 2 in the tent where Loki tries to trick Mobius, those two scenes are the only two scenes in the entire show that I felt dragged a little. There's also Ravonna Renslayer, who I know is an existing character in the comics, but I know nothing about her other than that. While she serves as mostly an obstacle to the principal characters, I can very much tell they're setting her up to be her own character in the next season, so I honestly can't really say that much about her. But I do like the actress, and I do like her interactions with Mobius, so I really hope to see more of her in season 2. So that's all kind of the main characters. Obviously, we see all the different Loki variants in the final 2 episodes. Richard E. Grant was probably my favorite as classic Loki. Richard E. Grant now just needs to be in an animated Disney movie in order for him to complete what I would call the Ming-Na Wen trifecta. Although Owen Wilson is also Lightning McQueen, so do Pixar movies count? I'm not sure. And on to the design of the show. The set design and the music are probably my 2 favorite aspects of the show other than the acting. This is a show that I would highly recommend watching with some high quality headphones or if you have it like one of those surround sound TV setups, they really utilize both the synth elements of the soundtrack as well as the horn section. And the set design of the show, I hesitate to say set design because most of this is computer graphics, but not even counting locations like Kang's Temple at the End of Time or Lamentis 1. The design of the TVA is phenomenal. It makes 70s brutalism look good, which is something I never thought was possible. But by marrying it with other aspects of different retro styles like Art Deco, they've made something really sci-fi, retro future, but also very grandiose. Also, Tara Strong's in this show. We've got a Tara Strong appearance. She's the recording of the Time Variance Authority. If you know me, I love my Tara Strong impressions. If you've watched my reading of the Powerpuff Girls CW script, I also do Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls, which is also Tara Strong. So yes, that was my review of Loki. Sorry this video was shorter than some of my other reviews. I'm honestly struggling to find a lot to say, particularly about the shorter Disney Plus series, because they're only about 6 episodes each. And the episodes are fairly short, being about 40-ish minutes. I know WandaVision really stretched out the time they were given for each episode, but Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki have been keeping it fairly tight. I also am in a little bit of a hurry because I'm actually going on vacation for a week. I get on a plane in less than 24 hours, actually. So yes, sorry if this review was a little bit shorter than what you were hoping for, but I hope you did enjoy the video regardless, and I will see you next time.